Okay. It is 6 o'clock. I hope everyone's here. Gonna get started with our special meeting that we're co-hosting with CD11 and Councilwoman Traci Park. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Video.
I'm going to start by telling you that this meeting is being recorded for secretarial purposes, but we're going to make a good part of it available on our YouTube channel and also to CD11. So if anyone misses the meeting tonight, no worries, you'll be able to watch it.
A lot of people.
I'm going to start by reading our Community Council mission statement and call to order. Oh, that's the call to order. The purpose of the Pacific Palisades Community Council shall be to 1, be a forum for the consideration of community issues, 2, be an advocate for Pacific Palisades to government and private agencies upon issues where there is broad community agreement, as reflected by 2/3 of the board members voting on any one of those issues at a PPCC meeting, and 3, assist other organizations in the Palisades which want help in accomplishing their objectives or projects which the PPCC determines to support. I'm going to announce what's coming up at our next PPCC meeting, which will be a regular board meeting on August 14th from 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock. We have a few different speakers, presenters. We have the Bureau of Street Lighting coming to talk about light installations currently and upcoming work in the Palisades. We have an SBA rep coming to talk about SBA loans and answer questions that some of you might have about how to get them, what's required, that sort of thing. We have an update coming from Friends of the Palisades Library. And we have a gentleman named Bob Riddle coming to talk about a new project called Palisades Community Renewal Center. So that's going to be on our August 14th meeting. And without further ado, I'm hoping Councilwoman Park is here because I would like to introduce our Councilwoman, who we call our Superwoman, really, for the amount of work and fighting she does for us. I'd like to introduce Traci Park. Traci, are you here?
Hi, Sue. We are joining. I
Okay.
believe she will be in the waiting room. If you don't mind checking, thank you.
She's not.
Okay, give her another minute. She's joining. Thank you so much.
Okay. Arus, do you have anything for us while we're waiting for Traci?
Yes, while we're waiting, of course, please be aware we're sending a lot of LACC CRCD crews out there for a lot of cleanups. You will see them around some areas, like your private security know as well. They're doing some brush clearance, some trash pickup, and some public right-of-way remediations. So they will be either from Conservation Corps or CRCD. I also wanted to mention that BSL, Bureau of Street Lighting, will be joining us next meeting. So thank you so much for allocating some time for them to join and give us quick updates. I believe it's 5 to 7 minutes that they need to speak. They can speak, yeah.
Sorry.
That's okay, no worries. But we have asked them to come and present to the community what they have done after the fire and what the next plans will be for Bureau of Street Lighting as we move closer to the fall and winter. We'll know how it will unfold.
Okay. I think I just saw our Councilwoman.
Okay.
By the way, and Traci, I have introduced you, but I'll introduce you again. Superwoman, Councilmember Traci Park is with us. So, Arus, if you want to let Traci take over.
Absolutely. Councilwoman, can you unmute yourself?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, now we can.
Right. Are we live?
Totally live.
We are totally live.
Totally live.
Wow. Well, I really appreciate the opportunity to be here with you all this evening, and Sue, to you and all of the members of the Pacific Palisades Community Council for sharing your platform with us and bringing the community together for what I hope is an important and insightful community conversation and vision session for what lies ahead in the Pacific Palisades. I really want to thank Mayor Bass and her team for joining us in the meeting this evening, as well as the entire team from Aecom, who you're going to have an opportunity to meet this evening. I realized this morning that today marks 7 months from the day this fire absolutely devastated your community. We have come a very long way. As I think you all know, debris removal is nearly complete. PCH between Santa Monica and the Pacific Palisades is moving at nearly pre-fire speeds. We are really excited about the imminent reopening of Temescal Canyon Boulevard, just in time as schools are preparing to reopen and more of you are returning to standing homes in the Palisades. We really now are at a pivotal moment as we transition from the mop-up and debris removal into the long-term reconstruction phase in what will be the largest construction effort in our city's history. Obviously, the events of January 7th changed us forever. The fire took more than just homes. It took stability and our sense of safety. We all witnessed how unprepared we were. Poor communications, a chaotic evacuation, abandoned cars having to be bulldozed, lack of water and resources. We can't make those mistakes again. Like many of you, I have been in hundreds of meetings over these last 7 months, from individual conversations to formal listening sessions to town halls, HOA meetings, walks with neighbors through town, sometimes just a few of us and a glass of wine, having a good cry around a kitchen table. Every single one of those conversations have provided valuable insight and education from every corner of the Palisades. I also had the opportunity, as a lot of you know, to spend time in Paradise and Lahaina and learning from Santa Rosa. And I've made time to learn from contractors and builders and disaster recovery subject matter experts. And so I wanted to document that learning, the information that we've taken in, and try to capture what you have conveyed to me and my team over these last 7 months, and spend some time really putting pen to paper about the values that I think should continue to lead us as we now move from recovery into the rebuilding phase. I spent quite a lot of time over the last several weeks while council was in recess, committing thoughts to paper. We are going to present an abbreviated version of that for you this evening. But I wanted to let you know that the full document will be available at cd11.lacity.gov.org, whatever it is, the CD11 website. We're going to have a link here shortly that we will drop into the chat as well. This document is just the product of my own thoughts and how I chose to organize them. They are not a complete itemization of everything that I have learned or every project that needs to be done. Really, more than anything, I intended for this to be a vision document, a statement of values, and something that can serve as a guide as we embed Aecom in the development now of a long-term comprehensive recovery operations, logistics, and infrastructure plan. That is going to be a heavy lift for them in coming months. They are going to become heavily embedded with your community. They have already spent time in the Palisades and other fire impacted communities like Brentwood, and they are going to be a conduit. And it's really important for all of you to stay engaged, because the information that you are providing to them ultimately will guide their work in shaping the next steps between city departments, you all, as well as our partners at the county and the state, and at the federal level as well. And so with that, your trusty field deputy, Arus, who, as you all know, has been on the ground with you every single day since this happened, is going to help us run tonight through the PowerPoint. So Arus, if you will, please fire it up.
Can you all see my screen?
Yes.
The
Yes.
presentation? Yes? Okay.
Yes.
And thank you, Arus.
You're welcome.
So as your council member, I am adamant that your voices and your needs and priorities, and that your decisions are at the core of every decision we make and every step that we take going forward. My office and I are going to be here to help you provide the coordination and the policy tools and support that you need, as well as the help that you are going to need to continue your journey through this recovery. I am very clear that this recovery and rebuilding process should not be an opportunity for policy experiment or displacement. So with that, let's move over to sort of the broad categories. As I mentioned, this does not cover every topic, every issue, every challenge ahead, but is some of the more common things that we have talked about and some of the biggest ticket items going forward. First, we'll talk about the vision and the values for the recovery. I want to go over the surveys that we conducted in late spring and early summer. We're going to talk about land use and community character, the importance of protecting our property owners as well as our renters, small business recovery, infrastructure and emergency preparedness, our natural environment, the operations and logistics for the rebuild, restoring our public spaces, and our governance and funding strategy for our long-term efforts. So with that, I want to talk a little bit about the vision itself. I have been very clear from the outset that the Palisades recovery should be community-led and government-supported. I genuinely believe that the most extraordinary asset in the entire Palisades is you all. You have demonstrated that from the outset in your organization of yourselves, the emergence of various grassroots organizations who have now become the infrastructure of our recovery efforts and how we are communicating with each other and how we are engaging. I am also very clear, based in the meetings we've had, the concerns that you've shared, that this rebuild needs to be for the people of the Palisades, and that every rock must be turned over until we are able to create viable pathways
doesn't have
to
sound,
ensure that every displaced
or at least
resident
I don't
has
know
a viable
where
pathway
the sound is turned on.
Sorry about that. Can
It's
everyone
okay.
please make sure you're on mute?
I think,
I'm
Ruth, you
in
might be able to
favor.
mute all. Are you the admin of the Zoom?
No, I am. I thought everybody was muted.
It happens all the time. I also thank you for that. Think it is really important that we preserve the character of the Palisades. Your community is a very unique coastal community, one that was built over the course of a century. A beautiful coastal hamlet with the Santa Monica Mountains rising behind and 6 major canyons leading out to the Pacific Ocean. There are inevitable changes that will occur as we rebuild, but I believe it is very important that we maintain the integrity and the character of your community. I don't see any path forward in recovery that doesn't have a heavy focus on infrastructure and emergency preparedness. So we'll dive into all of that as we go. I wanted to take a minute and go over the recovery surveys. You may all remember that back in late spring, early summer, we worked in coordination with Miriam Czar and the Palisades Recovery Coalition to develop a series of questions and distribute them amongst you. And every time I take a survey, I always want to know what the results are. And it's pretty rare that we ever find them back out. I wanted to take a minute and share them with you. We had just under 1,000 responses. I don't claim that this information is scientific, and I'm not using it to draw any scientific conclusions, but I do think that what you told us confirms a lot of what we were hearing anecdotally, and in some cases can help us provide a peek around the corner for what lies ahead with respect to your plans, your timelines, and the challenges that you're facing. So one of the things that we asked was just about some basic household demographics, notably about half of the folks who responded to the survey had children under 18 living with them at the time. It was also interesting that most respondents to the survey were actually long-time residents with more than 20 years in the Palisades.
Be interesting to know the 10-year threshold.
Yeah.
We also wanted to take a look at your current housing situation. We know that many of you remain displaced. At the time we conducted the survey, only 56 of 738 respondents had returned to standing homes in the Palisades. 75% of you at that time remained scattered across LA County. We do know that more of you have returned to standing homes in the weeks since that we concluded the surveys, and we already know that more and more of you are coming back now as businesses have been reopening and a couple of our schools are set to open in August. I also just wanted to make a note here that regardless of where you are living, if you are temporarily displaced from the Pacific Palisades due to the fire, you are still entitled to maintain your voter registration as a Palisadian. If there is anybody who deserves a say in what happens next in your community, it's you. So even if you may be temporarily living in a different part of the city of Los Angeles or in a different city, Manhattan Beach or Culver City or elsewhere, you can still maintain your voter registration as a Palisadian. You can go to voterstatus.sos.gov to check your status. We also asked you whether you anticipated living outside of the Palisades for more than 2 years. We ask that because a lot of experts think that 2 years is a benchmark for predicting whether someone will come back and rebuild or not. Data suggests that folks who are away longer than 2 years are far less likely to return. When we asked you that question, the results were mixed. Only 32.5% of you indicated that you would in fact be back in less than 2 years. And just over 37% of you said you planned to live outside the Palisades for more than 2 years. One of the things that came through loud and clear was that a lot of you were not certain yet about your long-term plans. And there were a lot of reasons that you shared with us for that. One of the main issues, of course, was the issue of insurance. And less than 35% of you reported being adequately insured for the losses that you suffered on January 7th. For people who were unsure about whether or not to rebuild, we saw a lot of similar issues. The most common: insurance, the cost of rebuilding, safety and health concerns, lack of public infrastructure like parks and libraries. For people that had already decided to sell their lots or their standing homes, we heard similar concerns about what the future was going to hold, and including related to the insurability question. One of the things that sorry for the break there. One of the things that we wanted to look at was to get a sense of what your plans were for the rebuilding. Less than 8% of the individuals who responded had a home that had been built in the last 5 years, which tells us that the vast majority of homes are going to have to be updated to meet modern fire resistance and building codes. About 70% of you indicated that you planned to rebuild like for like, up to plus 10%. Just over 31% of you were still undecided. And at that time of the survey, just over 17% of you were already pretty clear that you intended to expand the footprint or your floor plan. We also asked about plans for future rebuilding and preferences and types of homes that people might be interested in. About 30% of you are considering modular or prefab construction. Just over 25% of you expressed interest in using a pre-approved floor plan and builder, especially if it would result in lower costs or a faster timeline. And about 20% of you, just under 20% of you, indicated that you were interested in adding an ADU. We also asked about employment status and commute routes, because that will help us understand travel and commute patterns on the ground, which will help, hopefully, better manage traffic during reconstruction. So just over 44% of Palisades residents commute to jobs outside the area, with about 26.5% of you living and working right in the Palisades. We also wanted to look at the thoroughfares that are your primary commute routes. We know from our experience during debris removal, the challenges that we had with ingress and egress to the area. Certainly those impacts were felt all the way down Sunset Boulevard out to the 405. And we were able to discern, certainly with the closure of Temescal, that most of that pressure was on Chautauqua and Sunset down to PCH. We also know that Sunset out to the 405 and through West Los Angeles to the 10 freeway were some of the most common routes. I know a lot of folks have been extremely frustrated by the traffic delays in and around the area. And so we are really looking forward to Temescal Canyon opening up next week. That is, we think, drastically going to help improve traffic flow. We wanted to have this information in part so that as AECom works on its traffic management and logistics effort, it can already have some visibility into the commute patterns and traffic issues that we already typically are seeing on the ground, so that we can both manage the expected influx of construction vehicles and material, while also trying to respectfully do this in a way that enables the folks who are still living in the Pacific Palisades to be able to do so with as minimal disruption as possible. We also asked questions that were unique to people that still have standing homes in the Palisades. There are unique challenges that those individuals continue to face with respect to environmental concerns, health concerns, and remediation. We heard back from you all through our surveys deep frustration with the insurance companies, concerns about inadequate coverage for remediation costs, a lack of the insurance companies taking seriously the potential health risks. We have repeatedly heard concerns about potential undervaluation of properties, and probably the most common thing that I heard just in my conversations with you individually was poor communication and challenges navigating through the claims process. Those concerns continue to highlight the need for stronger advocacy and oversight to ensure fair treatment and timely support for our affected homeowners. We also wanted to take a look at some of the major infrastructure projects that were going to be necessary. Among the major things that we have heard from you, of course, were undergrounding the utilities, investments in our fire department, hydrants and water infrastructure, roadway improvements, including evacuation routes. We also wanted to talk a little bit about land use and preservation of community character. As I mentioned in my opening comments, the Pacific Palisades is a very unique coastal community with extremely limited ingress and egress, many substandard, old, narrow roads. You all remember better than anyone back in the old days in 2024, when you all had houses in the alphabets and never a place to park, how difficult it was to get a sanitation truck through on a normal day. This is not urban infill in the Pacific Palisades, and it is imperative that we continue to treat the Palisades with the due care that is necessary in all of our planning as we move through the rebuilding phase. I also think that it is really important that we respect the character of the Palisades, its natural beauty, the low density hillside neighborhoods, your walkable village center. And I also think it's important for your deep civic engagement to remain at the forefront on this issue, and that we approach land use and development with an emphasis on local control and rebuilding what was lost in a way that respects the scale and the identity and the safety needs of your community. Like many of you, I worry about state density laws being used to take advantage of the devastation. Certainly for those of you who have been following along, you're all aware that on July 30th, Governor Newsom and Mayor Bath issued executive orders pausing SB 9 applications in the disaster area, and with major concerns, and these are not hypothetical concerns, very serious, very real concerns about evacuation routes and adequate infrastructure in the Pacific Palisades, especially in congested, dense areas like the Alphabets. It is imperative that we are focusing on safety and the infrastructure that is going to be needed to support capacity. And as we think about added and planned growth for the Palisades, it absolutely needs to be linked to our routes, our evacuation routes, public safety, and infrastructure. Arus, I thought we might have skipped this slide, but I'm glad that you came back to it. I think supporting our small, okay, wait, we're gonna go back to, nope. All right, let's land there for a minute. We'll do protecting and assisting property owners and renters. The loss of homes in the Palisades is staggering. Not just homes, but your businesses, places of worship, nonprofits, your public and your private schools, your library, your park, your commercial corridor, and your local businesses, all just devastated, along with the sense of community that they created. I think that it remains the moral and the policy obligation of lawmakers to ensure that property owners, the people who were displaced, who are the victims of this fire, are prioritized in our rebuilding efforts. I think it is essential that our homeowners are able to have a clear pathway to get back, and that they are being prioritized in this process. It is also essential that our displaced renters have a right to return to the community as those multifamily buildings are being replaced. I have worked very closely, and I am very grateful to Mayor Bass for her ongoing partnership in moving every mountain that is necessary to eliminate red tape and regulatory hurdles. You may be aware that she issued an executive order suspending the collection of permit fees. I have also introduced legislation and am moving that through council. I will keep you posted as those get scheduled and those head to the Budget and Finance Committee and then to the full City Council. For none of you is this voluntary. And it is very clear to me that those barriers need to be removed in order to ensure a fair recovery for all property owners in the Palisades. I also think it is essential that survivors are prioritized over speculators. We need to focus on the people who were impacted, not developers, not outside organizations or interests that are seeking to capitalize on your crisis and loss. with hundreds of under and uninsured property owners who are struggling to afford the cost of rebuilding, and with so many people without the access to capital that is going to be necessary, it is imperative that we continue to advocate for the state and the federal government to help us close that gap. And as I mentioned, it is really imperative that our renters are given the opportunity to return to those new units before they are offered to any other tenants. I also think it is imperative that we reestablish affordability protections so those individuals can continue to afford living in their community. And with that, Arus, I think now we'll move over to the small business recovery tool slide. Small businesses have always been the backbone of the local economy in the Palisades. They provide local jobs in your community, they serve your neighborhoods, and they drive innovation. To ensure a successful economic recovery, it is imperative that we make the return of small businesses a top priority. We are working across local organizations on resilient, forward-looking plans to help local Palisades businesses not only reopen, but thrive in the long term. One of the things that was very clear from your surveys was that you all have a strong, not all, but many of you have a strong preference for small, independent businesses. And I think all of that ties in to the way you feel about the community character and the look and the feel of your downtown village. I think that is going to be very important as we plan to restore your commercial corridor. So turning to fire safety and emergency preparedness, I have emphasized both before and after the fire that our public infrastructure needs a thorough reassessment. We have to take these actions seriously, and I don't think that we can have any meaningful conversation about the rebuilding process that isn't tied to emergency preparedness and community safety. Our city is simply too large and too vulnerable to operate without adequate resources and systems in place to protect people. We already saw on January 7th, during that chaotic evacuation, the very real challenges that already exist for your community. And the results of the stress test that we experienced in real time continue to be an urgent reminder that we must do better. That's why last week I introduced a motion to urgently assess the capacity of our roadways around the entire council district under various emergency circumstances, as well as the impacts of future density, current density, traffic and choke point mitigation, alternate routes for a multi-event emergency, for example, an earthquake where you may have multiple freeways or buildings that have been damaged or down or, God forbid, on fire, as well as the widespread need for community education and training. Protecting and restoring the natural environment is a top concern for all of us. We live in an incredible but very fragile ecosystem, and this fire had a profound impact on our natural environment. We saw with our own eyes the toxic sludge moving from the burn area and beyond, from the watershed right out to the beaches at Will Rogers. At the same time, our ocean was suffering from a toxic algal bloom that sickened and killed so much of our wildlife. As we look to rebuild the Palisades, the undergrounding of your utilities, upgrading of your power capacity, improvement of your water infrastructure, as well as rethinking and redesigning the watershed for better coastal protections, need to be a huge part of our strategic planning. Managing and coordinating the logistics and operations for what is going to be the largest reconstruction effort in our city's history is going to be no small task. Many of you that have been in meetings with me over the last 7 months have heard my ongoing frustration and exasperation about not being able to elicit a timely, comprehensive guide or plan to help manage the movement of people and vehicles and materials in and around the area, the use of community assets for staging and other purposes during this process. But that is something that is going to be essential to help us get through this. If we were building Playa Vista right now, we would have been planning this for 20 years. We would have already contracted for all of the materials and labor. We would have timed the deliveries of materials to meet certain benchmarks on our project. But we don't have that kind of time to plan. We are very, very grateful to have Aecom on board to now take the helm of preparing that very heavy lift. While it won't solve the insurance questions and while it won't resolve the lingering financial constraints for individuals who are or underinsured or who don't have the financial resources to rebuild, it can help provide a glimpse around the corner for the timelines and the process that lies ahead that will help you as a community, especially those of you who are still undecided, make your decisions as they may impact your kids, their schools, and other big decisions in your life. I know how important your public amenities are to you in the Pacific Palisades. Your parks, your hiking trails, your recreation center, your library are among some of the most beloved institutions in your community. We are very, very excited that the playground, the basketball courts, and I think 2 of the tennis courts are now reopened at the rec center. The old gym is open and will be home to RAP and their programming through the end of the year. Demolition and reconstruction on the new gym, we think will kick off early next year. So we have big plans for you at that location. We have big plans for the library as well. They will be working directly to present designs with the community and working with your Friends of the Library organization. There is a lot in place and already in motion, working to get your public amenities open. We are super excited about some of your schools reopening as early as next week, with plans for others, including Pali High, to return as early as the January semester. These are all huge milestones for your community, and all of this is spelled out in much greater detail in the long document, which hopefully by now is circulating in the chats and should be up on the CD11. If it's not yet, we'll make sure we get it in before we are done here this evening. So governance and funding for the long-term rebuilding effort is going to be a critical next piece for us to tackle. In the early days after the fire, I introduced a motion in council to explore creating a climate resilience district for the Pacific Palisades. That is an incremental tax financing tool that would enable us to keep your incremental tax increases on your property values over time in the Pacific Palisades for investment in long-term infrastructure right in your community. I like the climate resilience district because it is focused on infrastructure. It keeps your local dollars right in your community and has a manageable governance structure. Over the last couple of months, we've also heard conversations around a potential resilient building authority. Senator Allen introduced the concept in Senate Bill 549. That is another idea that merits deep conversation. The ability to hold contracts, procure materials at scale and cost savings. To those of you that may be facing financial hardships who want to participate, could be useful things. In the coming weeks, Senator Allen and Supervisor Horvath and I and the Palisades Community Council and other groups and organizations will sit down to talk about what type of a governance structure would make the most sense. I don't want to create additional bureaucratic delays. We want to create something for you that is customized to your community, to your needs, that is well-defined in advance. And I would be adamant that any governance structure be made up primarily of community members with support from subject matter experts and elected officials as appropriate. I don't think we would be where we are today if it weren't for the collaboration and leadership of so many of you in the Pacific Palisades. When I said that this recovery should be community-led and government-supported, you all proved what I meant by that. There are dozens of organizations in the Palisades that existed long before the fire and some that have emerged since. You all have played a critical role in shaping the debris removal and recovery process to where we are. You have provided the human connection points that brought us back together in the darkest of times. And you are the network that is going to keep this community together. And you are how we are going to create the plan as we move forward. There are so many of you that I'm not going to read off every single bullet point, but Arus, really appreciate you guiding us through the slides. As I mentioned, we are just giving you a very top level view of what I have put into this vision document. I've had Aecom here to listen to this because I think it's important to hear the feedback that we've had and the values that you all have conveyed to me so that they can keep that in mind as they prepare their work in the long-term planning efforts. My team and I are going to continue to be here with you on the ground, making sure that your voices and your interests are being represented and to continue helping to problem solve and diagnose issues and make policy and legislative fixes where we can. I'll be giving the complete document to Aecom as well as our survey data so that it may be useful and instructive to them. I am incredibly grateful for the time that they have already spent with me personally and the CD11 team, as well as the extensive engagement they have already begun in the Pacific Palisades. And so with that, I am really excited to get to introduce you this evening to the Aecom team. Matt, I know we have Matt Talley on, but if I could maybe have the Aecom team join me, I'd like to give you an opportunity to say hello and a quick overview of the work that you are going to be doing for the city to help the Palisades with the long-term recovery planning. Thanks, Aecom.
Absolutely, Councilwoman. I just want to take a second to acknowledge just how inspiring you and your office are. Thank you for all of the commitment and everything that you have put into this recovery. It is obvious that you all deeply care about the community and are committed to getting us to a recovery as safely and as quickly as possible. It's very inspiring. I also want to thank the community. We have been in the community for the past 3 weeks. And I have met many of you and I have heard your stories. And I want to say thank you for your contributions. Thank you for your commitment. There's many people in the community that are committed, just as you are, Councilwoman, to making sure that the homes are rebuilt, the community is safe, and that we can return back to the community as quickly and safely as possible. And I'll also say that I'm heartened by the stories that I've heard. Each story that I hear when I'm in the community makes me want to do this job even harder and get you back into the community even faster. Before I introduce some members of the AECOM team, for those of you who don't know who AECOM is an architectural and engineering company, program management firm. Our US business is based here in Los Angeles, and I'll just repeat that. We're based in Los Angeles. And so we're part of the community. We are here, you can see us in the skyline of downtown LA. And we are committed. It's personal to us to make sure that we do this the right way, that you have clear deliverables for us, and that there's accountability for the work that we do. And I have had several conversations with Councilwoman Park and the mayor about that. So my name is Matt Talley. I'm the program manager for AECOM. I'm not just the program manager. I've also been a disaster survivor. So I know exactly what you all are going through. I know the questions that you all are asking about getting back to normal, about your job, about your kids going back to school. I know it because I've been there. And so it again makes me want to work harder to make sure that we get this recovery right and that we get it done quickly. So I was hoping, Mark DeMichelis, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself.
Sure.
Mark is my partner in crime.
Yeah. Thanks, Matt. Yeah. Mark DeMichelis. I've worked in Los Angeles for 20 years. I'm a civil engineer. I'm headquartered in our downtown office, working with the community. And it does sound kind of corny, but like we've been living this now for almost a month, and just seeing everybody's stories and hearing what's going on and seeing how hard you're all working makes us want to work harder. So we hope we can do that for you, and that we can get you back to normal as soon as possible. We promise we'll try our best.
Hey, Mark, if you could pull up our slides, we're just going to quickly go through a few of our scope elements so that you all can see what it is we're doing. We'll keep this brief, just in the interest of time.
Can you see them or not? I can't tell.
We can see them.
Oh my gosh, I did it.
All right.
Thanks.
All right, and if we could go to the next slide, Mark.
All right. Yes.
So one of the things, so we don't want to, so I will tell you that there's 3 areas of focus, and I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on the exact scope because I want to get you to exactly where we are and some of the outcomes that we have already that we have already put out there in the past 3 weeks. But the 3 areas of focus for AECOM are infrastructure, and that means looking at water. Here we go. There we go. So looking at the infrastructure restoration plan. So it's looking at water and power primarily, and making sure that we have we're connecting LADWP and all of the planning and work that they're doing with the rebuilding efforts that are happening in the Pacific Palisades. We're also looking at sequence of repairs, undergrounding, and all of those sorts of things would be looked at in our infrastructure restoration plan. In workstream 3, we're looking at the fire protection. So this is not only looking at how do we prevent something like this from ever happening again. It looks at we'll be looking at alternative water sources that we could use to fight fires. We'll be looking at evacuation planning to see how this can be done better in the future. And and by the way, for all of this, we'll be using input from city departments and bureaus, from all of the elected officials and stakeholders, but the most important people that we'll be looking for input from is you all as the community. And then lastly, the logistics and traffic management plan. This is really looking at construction phasing and traffic patterns and how when we continue the construction, how does it impact Sunset or other major or PCH or other major streets, and how does it impact during the school year and things like that that we will be looking at. Next slide, please, Mark.
Here.
And so
Okay.
associated with each of those are several deliverables, and Aecom will be delivering within the next 120 days 3 concrete plans. You will have something in hand from Aecom that is data driven. It is community with community input, but most importantly, these reports will be able to have you all use the recommendations that we've put forward as in informing our recovery with you, right? So what we put together in the infrastructure recovery plan, looking at the assessment of existing damage and the current status and the baseline for infrastructure data, and the strategic framework for rebuilding, all of those things will be part of the infrastructure restoration plan pertaining to water and power. For the fire protection plan, again, we'll have evacuation planning, we'll have water supply alternatives, and we'll be coordinating with both you and the city as we go through that. But that will be a plan at the end of the day. And then the logistics and traffic management plan, this will look at things like temporary and workforce housing, materials laydown areas. It will also look at transparency and road closures and how construction phasing will impact traffic throughout the Pacific Palisades. And so, and Mark, why don't you walk us through, if you don't mind, some of the concrete actions that we've taken over the past 3 weeks and some of the outcomes that we've
Sure.
achieved.
Sure, I can do that. I want to add on these plans though too, Matt. Like these aren't shelf documents. This is gonna be a roadmap like that lays out what the next steps are and try to focus on concrete action-oriented activities. So it really is intended to be a roadmap to continue the progress moving forward. Sort of what have we been up to? Matt and I were in a meeting today with the city departments, and this is actually the report we gave the city. We've integrated with the city departments. We're now meeting with all the department heads weekly with the mayor's office. We've attended more than 15 meetings already with the various city agencies, and they're doing a lot of work. I will say, like, there are places where we're going in and they're already working on things. There's just people, not everybody knows yet, so we're coordinating and sort of playing the connector of dots in some places. So they're working hard, but we've had more than 50 meetings with those folks. We've attended more than 10, I think over a dozen, Matt, community groups, and we're listening and learning. We try to come to as many things as we can to hear what's going on and hear what the problems are. And then when we go back to the departments, we're bringing that information too and saying, hey, we were talking to the community and they're talking about how do you connect power? Is it going to change with undergrounding? These are the things they're worrying about. So we're trying to connect the dots there. We've have strategic working sessions now scheduled with each of the departments that we're going to be going through. We've completed our initial data requests, and there's a lot of data, GIS maps and parcel data and condition data on roadways and all kinds of hydraulic models for the water system. And so we're collecting all that data now and putting it into a centralized place where our engineers are starting to use that to analyze that and to work with the city departments. We've collected and reviewed a number of master plan documents, including documents that were generated by the community. There's been a lot of work done. There's a lot of brain power in the Palisades, as you all know. Architects, engineers, attorneys, all kinds of folks from all different walks of life. And there's been a lot of work done there too. So we pulled that together and reviewed all that material. And we're starting to work on our analysis. We have a draft outline now for each of these plans that Matt mentioned that we're going to be then reviewing with the city and continuing to flesh out. So that's sort of where we are today. Short-term deliverables, we have 30-day deliverables that are identified here. Project management plan, a decision timeline, community engagement strategy, which I think now that we've spent more time in the community, we have a better idea of sort of how you're organized and how we might connect with you. And then a digital gap analysis on data that we have and what we're missing. We're pulling together a brief damage assessment report to sort of say what we have, what's been evaluated, what the condition of the different infrastructure systems are. So we have a report on that. I mentioned tech memo outlines and plans, and traffic control analysis. So we're currently running traffic models and looking to see, is there anything we can do right away to try to help with the traffic situation? Obviously, Temescal Canyon opening is going to be huge, and as Councilwoman Park indicated, we heard that today too, that it's imminent and that will be opening soon. So that's sort of what we're up to. And then again, here are our long-term deliverables. And that's all I got.
Thanks, Mark.
All right.
And before we pass it back, I know that a lot of you know AECom as architectural and engineering, and I saw some of the comments coming through. You know, so AECom does have a global humanitarian practice. I actually lead it. I am, you know, I told you I was the program manager for this project, but I have over 25 years of experience working in disaster management. My very first disaster was 9/11. Some of you have asked which disaster that I was a disaster survivor from. I lived in Key West, and it was Hurricane Irma, and so we did evacuate, but we ended up losing much of our house and our belongings. And so, you know, and again, I understand where you are in terms of insurability and what you're going through right now. And so again, hearing your stories makes us want to work harder and get you back into your homes as safe and as fast as we possibly can. And we are truly committed to doing that. And with that, Councilwoman Park, I'll pass it back to you.
Matt, thank you so much. You know, I think your and the team's efforts here to give those concrete steps and implementation strategies for the long-term infrastructure plans, as well as helping us address these lingering concerns about the operations and the logistics for the rebuild, are something that this community has long needed, something that I have been repeatedly frustrated and exasperated to not have in front of us. And so we are very, very grateful. Also wanted to thank you guys for taking the time already to meet with Brentwood constituents and hear their concerns. Obviously, that community was impacted as well, and the issues around Sunset continue to persist. And so I'll look forward to your efforts as you work with all of our communities. I also wanted to mention that the PPCC has contracted with the National Opinion Research Center at the University of Chicago. And so I think it'll be really important for you to continue stay engaged with the PPCC about that data, and to the extent that it can be useful in your analysis and development of plans. I think that will be really important. So I just wanted to add those couple of things. Arus and Sarah and the rest of Team CD11 have been circulating the link to the larger vision document, which, as I mentioned up top, is not does not cover every issue that we are currently facing in the Palisades, and it does not cover every project that needs to be done. It establishes a number of key priorities and values to guide us as we work with AECom on those long-term projects, as we as a community talk about future governance and how to raise funds to pay for all of this, how to keep your tax dollars local and working for you in a way that makes sense, and being mindful that as we go through this and we are focusing on creating viable pathways to get impacted people back to the Palisades. We have an entire community that is living and trying to thrive in what is going to be this very, very complicated, extensive effort. So with that, the team, the CD11 team, I know is continuing to respond to questions in the chat. I do hope that all of you will grab the link to the larger vision document. Give that a read through. I welcome your thoughts and your input on it. As I said, that is just a document reflecting the information that I have learned over these last 7 months, most of which has come directly from you. And so I hope that that is useful to you and serves as a guide as we start tackling some of these big decisions and big projects going forward. And I know every single community in the Palisades has a unique set of challenges and projects and things that need to be done. And so Aecom is going to be instrumental in helping us make sure we have a viable plan to achieve those things. So with that, Sue, I'm happy to turn it back over to you. Thank you for indulging us with this conversation. I know that what I presented is very executive level, but take a look at the longer document, and then, you know, I will look forward to continuing our work in coming weeks and months as we focus on governance and working with Senator Allen and Supervisor Horvath to make sure that we are getting you all the help that you need and working on the legislative tools to make this recovery and rebuilding a possibility for everyone.
Okay, thank you so much, Councilwoman Park. We reserved a little bit of time for people who had burning questions or comments about the presentation tonight. Certainly you can make comments in the chat, but if there's something that you feel is important you'd like to speak to, now is your chance.
How are you managing that? Are we doing raising hands or can I go?
Can you raise your digital hand?
Okay, I couldn't see that option any longer for some reason, but I see others, so I'll figure it out.
Okay, Richard Blumenberg, can we go first to you?
I'm an architect and I've been submitting plans for plan check for fire rebuilds. And I will have to tell you that the so-called expedited plan is not really happening. The only thing they give us is the initial plan check, but we still have to go through all the agencies, which takes significant time. And also even reviewing a SOAS report takes 4 weeks. So if there's anything that you can do, Tracy, to speed them along, I'd really appreciate it.
Okay, I really appreciate that, Richard. Thank you for the feedback. Hearing that helps us diagnose where the issues are. We will look at it. Could I also just ask you, Richard, to send us an email? Can you just put that in writing to us? Because it shouldn't be that bureaucratic that you have to go deal with every single department after that and have that time added on. So but if you could just send that to us in an email, we will work on that and look at what more can we do to streamline this and speed it up. The entire point of the expedited process was to make it quick.
I will be happy to do that.
Okay, thank you, Richard.
All right, David Howard.
Hi, thanks. Hi, Sue. Hi, Tracy and team. Just quick question. A lot of people are starting to rebuild all over town, which is great. I understand the alphabets don't have, at this point, and probably some other areas are not equipped for any kind of internet access. And I know a lot of us want to put security cameras on our property as we start to build. So if we can maybe get some guidance there or some help getting that done, that would be really important.
Yes, thank you, David, for the note. I've jotted it down. I don't know off the top of my head what the status is with comms for internet. If there is a CD11 team member, a Roos or Juan, if you have any more current info.
I just got a note, a text that also the Via Bluffs don't have it as well. So
Via
it'd be
Bluffs,
the
okay.
alphabets and the Via Bluffs, yes.
Okay, all right, thank you for the note. I've
Is
made
this
a
something I
note,
can we
David.
just follow up with an email?
Yes, thank
Okay,
you.
got it. Thank you.
Thanks, David. Allison?
Tracy and Aecom, thank you so much for this presentation. You've got so many people watching right now. Just in terms of the cadence of the build, as one who has secured a permit about to pour concrete, can we get an understanding of how many people actually have permits? And I agree with the architect who spoke before, it is very difficult, should be easier. And based on that, given that some people are not in a hurry, we keep hearing about how there's going to be this massive construction all at once, but based on what we have and the number of homes that were destroyed, do we have any analysis on that?
Allison, it's a great question. So we have just over 300 permits issued and just under 1,000 in the application pipeline. So, that's about 1/5 of the homes. I think it's reflective of the ongoing uncertainty that a lot of people are still dealing with, whether those are insurance related issues, mortgage relief or access to capital, or still remaining questions about timing and phasing. So, I thought it was interesting and notable from the data that we were able to discern from my non-scientific survey that we put around. But I think given that there are still some folks who are uncertain, given what we know about people that have indicated that they're planning to come back, I think this is where Aecom needs to come in and use their expertise now to help us establish what we think that cadence is going to be. It may be that over the next 2 years, we do see a massive push where we are actually dealing with the traffic and the staging issues and the congestion in town that we're worried about. It could be that there are enough people that are planning to wait until more of you are done before they start, that some of those current concerns could be mitigated with different strategies. So that is what we expect Aecom to be able to kind of come in and, take this data now and tell us, what are the day-to-day things that we're going to implement, whether that's staging, parking, worker shuttles, those sorts of things.
Okay, thank you. Lexi?
Thanks so much. For those of us in the Palisades who are staying in the Palisades and not abandoning the town, but are perhaps changing lots, it's come to my attention, that new builds are considered exempt from the benefits like permit waiving fees and like expedite and that type of a thing. So as you do the legislation you mentioned earlier regarding kind of putting into writing a lot of the benefits that we're getting as victims, it would be wonderful to consider the families who are staying in the Palisades, but maybe moving to another street. And even though we've only acquired new lots at this time, if we have, address or FEMA claim or some evidence of having been a victim, to extend those benefits to us as well, so we can financially survive and stay in the Palisades.
Lexi, it's a great point. Thank you for bringing it up. I hadn't heard that request before, but it's a great note. Thank you.
Yes, thanks. There's someone that says Samsung. I don't know what your name is. And you're on mute.
I'm there. Now I am. Yes, I'm not skilled enough to put my name. I'm Carol Brooke. I've rented in the Palisades or owned a condo since 2004. And my concern, I'm currently camping out in Santa Monica, but I'm very concerned about where we can get responsible advice on when it will be safe to return given the air quality. My understanding is that the after impacts, if we don't have good air, will not hit us for 10 or 15 years. I hope to still be around at that point. And so knowing that you can look and see whether there's moderate problems or what stage it is doesn't really help us figure out when it really is safe for us to come back. So any kind of structural thing that would give us that advice, I think, is really important to incorporate. I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, Carol, thank you for that. So AQMD and other agencies are regularly monitoring and reporting out air quality issues. I don't know that addresses your concern of long-term, what does it mean? And I don't,
Exactly.
yeah, I don't know that there is a way to predict that. If there are other subject matter experts who have other information, I'm always happy to learn it, but we would be more than happy to share with you the groups and organizations that are currently testing and where you can get that data in real time.
Well, unfortunately, I know that, but you're right. It doesn't answer my question about what the
Yeah.
implications are of those results.
Councilwoman, I would
Thanks.
like to say that AQMD has two air testing locations
Yeah.
in Palisades, and those test results are available to the public. The webpage is also available to check the historical data and the comparison of the PM levels before and after the fire. Everybody has access to check that, and the county public health has also released some guidelines, very important. I will post both of the links in this chat, which are helping people determine how to safely to go back, and you can always check to see more information about the soil testing, air quality, and also how to safely to go back in those links. I do want to mention that the city has been doing soil testing for our public areas, such as the parks and the medians, and those test results have been also coming pretty good. I'll put these links in the chat so all of you can check those this information.
Thank you.
Thank
so
you,
much.
Arus. Thank you.
Okay, Wade.
Hi.
Wade.
Yes,
Hi.
I'm here. Hi, thanks. So we lost our home in Malibu. My mother-in-law's home in the Palisades survived, but is severely damaged and probably has to be gutted. My wife's Palisadian, so I'm taking a great deal of interest in both communities. I put this in the chat, but I think three critical points that have to be addressed. One was supposed to be part of the rebuild authority that went sideways on some points, but it had one very good idea, which is soft second mortgages to help people be able to afford to rebuild. It's a very smart idea. I think it has to make a comeback with or without a rebuild authority. That has to be made available, whether through the SBA or some other entity. But they have to give very, very serious consideration to that. Secondarily, some pressure on state legislators to reinstate the Prop 58 exemptions for parent-child and grandparent-to-grandchild property transfers. There are a lot of families who are dearly, dearly worried that if their parents or their grandparents decease during the course of the rebuild, they're going to have to sell the family home, and they will not be able to continue to live in their communities in Malibu, in the Palisades, and in Altadena. So that's a very serious consideration. Prop 58's exclusions were eliminated subversively by Prop 19. It was the fine print that nobody read. Nobody likes it, but there's a very strong YIMBY constituency in Sacramento that really, really wants to prevent that from happening. And we need Senator Allen, and we need all of our other representatives to really go to bat to preserve and restore those Prop 58 exemptions. That is critical for families to be able to continue to live multi-generationally in our communities. And then lastly, suspend all the sales taxes. There's no reason why our local communities, why the county, the state, all the other municipalities that collect sales taxes should be collecting money from the rebuilds. They get money when our communities are restored. So sales taxes related to costs that go towards rebuilding need to be suspended. Strictly for rebuilding. Any timber that you buy, any steel that you buy, furnishings that you buy, no sales taxes. That is a very easy $100,000 to $200,000 grant for every single homeowner. So that all three of those things, please consider that and fight for it.
All right, Wade, thank you for that. And I am in regular communication with Senator Allen. I was actually just with Senator McGuire yesterday in the Palisades, of the President Pro Tem of the Senate, and they have been just willing at every point to work seriously with us. So I will raise those issues at the state level.
Thank you.
And I just wanted to mention to you as well, with the soft second mortgages, you know, the access to financial capital and mortgage relief. It's addressed in the longer document that's now circulating in the chats, but this is something that we have been talking about, working with the banking industry directly with, and already talking to state lawmakers about, and that is how to and I will say some banks are already doing this with mortgage holders. I know, for example, Bank of America had about 1,500 mortgage holders who lost homes in the Palisades. So looking at ways to keep people in favorable loan products who are at lower interest rates and amortizing the costs of rebuilds over the life of the loan, creating modified loan products that can also capture those rebuilding costs, and then looking at innovative new financial products for people, low interest rate products that are going to be necessary for people that are struggling to cover the gap. And so I just wanted to let you know that a lot of that discussion is already underway, and certainly we as a council office are going to continue to push for that. You know, my goal in all of this is to make sure all of you who were impacted have a viable pathway to get home. So thank you for those additional couple of suggestions. And I will be more than happy to talk to our state leaders about them as well.
Thank you. Louise? Let's all try and keep these sort of brief too, because we're gonna run into a time crunch.
Point noted. I mean, Wade, thank you. Everything he said is brilliant. I love the sales tax idea and everything else. But I actually, two quick things. One, regarding the permit fee waiver, I hope that happens soon. But I've heard rumors that it might only be like for like. I know a lot of people who are building the same square footage, but their houses were originally 1920s. So they've gone to code with the same square footage, but their setbacks have changed and they've added a garage. So they're not considered like for like. And I think it would be really awful to penalize those people, you know, who are doing the right thing. So please include people who aren't like for like. I mean, if you're building 200%, maybe fine, or a developer, exclude them. And the second thing is there's a rumor circulating, Tracy, and thank you, that you're planning on getting rid of all the trees and widening the streets. And I don't know if it's true, if it's a legal requirement, or if the community is going to be involved in that decision, if you wouldn't mind speaking to that. And thank you again.
Sure, Louise, thank you for the question. So I will just be very candid. My opinion about the permit fee waivers is that they should all be waived regardless of what you're rebuilding, if it's like for like or not. It's not a voluntary rebuild, period. I get that. That is obvious. I have already moved it through the committee that I chair now, the LA Recovery Committee. It is going to head now to Budget and Finance Committee. There is about a $90 million impact to the general fund to waive those fees. There will be discussion amongst my colleagues about whether we can do it. Can we afford to do it? Should we do it? Then that will come to a vote for the full city council. For those of you who are not already, please sign up for my newsletter. You can do it at cd11.lacity.org.gov, whatever it is, it'll pop up no matter how you type it in. I put out information there, and sometimes it's a call for help. And that may be, I need you to come to committee. I may need you to come to city council. My colleagues may need to hear from you why this matters and why for some people this may actually be the difference between being able to rebuild or not. So I will certainly be lobbying for the most generous waivers that we can possibly get. With respect to getting rid of trees, we don't want to get rid of trees. Urban forestry has been out surveying trees, trying to do everything that they can to save and retain ones that they think they can. I have certainly heard concerns about trees being removed that maybe were healthy or could have survived. My intent is to keep as many trees that have a shot at it as we can, and to immediately replace the lost ones as quickly as we can. Widening roads, maybe. There may be some places where we need to widen roads. There may be places where we need to add an emergency turnaround. You guys have some streets in the Palisades Fire Department, they can get up, but they don't have any way to get out. They can't turn around. So I think that there are opportunities for discussions around that. And I think that we should make decisions based on what is going to improve your safety as a community, whether that is as an evacuation route or whether that is for the, emergency responders to be able to get in and out of the area. But those are the decisions we will have as a community. That I think is my response to both parts of your question. I want you guys need to retain your urban canopy. You need to replace what was lost. The vegetation in your parks and on the hillsides needs to be restored. And that environmental restoration is as important as the infrastructure and the buildings of structures.
Thank you. Thank you very
You're
much.
welcome.
Chris.
Thank you so much. Traci, thank you for your passion, your compassion, your strength, your dedication. I could go on and on. It's incredibly appreciated. I've had to move outside of the area, but I'm back about every 2 weeks. I'm hoping to file for my permits next week. Raring to go. Hope you can work this out. As Richard said, we need to not have these delays. But here's my more specific question. Every time we come in, we keep seeing there's still a lot of commercial properties with debris. Some of it's being removed. That's wonderful to see. But right there in the middle of town, near Antioch, all those buildings, it's still there. It's still terrible. My hairdresser used to be there. She's now in Santa Monica, and she hasn't been back. She's so devastated. And I just sent her pictures from the other day showing the debris is still there from the building she used to work at. So what can we do about that? What's the status? Please help us with that. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Chris. Nice to see you. Just a quick note on permits, and hopefully they won't take too long. I didn't mention this before when it came up, but for any of you that are stuck or not getting responses or there are delays, please reach out to me and my team. We can sometimes help troubleshoot and diagnose where there may be a challenge. Sometimes we can urge folks to hurry the heck up. So I don't have a magic wand to solve every problem, but do let us know and let us at least try to help and get to the bottom of what the holdup may be. With respect to the commercial properties, yeah, there are a few of them left. There has been a lot of progress over the last number of weeks. So you may remember that, they are primarily your commercial properties are going to be going through their insurance for debris removal, but I think the city will plan to come through and ensure that all debris has been removed probably by the end of summer sometime this fall, and likely we'll be partnering with Army Corps to do that kind of abatement. Arus, do you have any more updated information on the timeline for commercial debris removal, especially along Sunset? Because there are a handful of properties. A lot of them have been done, but there are a few left.
Based on our latest debris removal meeting, the AMDs are tracking all of these commercial properties along Sunset and the rest of Palisades, Councilwoman, and they will be receiving additional paperwork to complete their debris removal.
Okay, so they're going to be getting notifications from the city likely soon if they haven't already. Chris, you may remember that at least for the residential debris removal, there were a handful of people that we never heard anything from. They didn't opt in, they didn't opt out, they didn't respond to emails or phone calls when we tried. And I'm not kidding you, we literally as a council office did everything we could to get a hold of them. There were a handful of people who fell in that category. They already got pretty sternly worded letters and orders to comply. There were another group that had opted out, but had not pulled permits. They got another kind of strictly worded letter and a deadline to comply. And then there were a handful of folks that had pulled permits, but had not yet completed the work. And so they got a slightly less sternly worded letter congratulating them and telling them to hurry up and get finished. And so that's how we've been wrapping those up. And I expect that we will be doing the same with the commercial properties over the next few weeks. Our plans with EMD and the Army Corps has always been to complete all debris removal by fall. So I know that there's a handful left, but I don't think they're going to be there much longer, Chris.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay, everybody, let's say 1 minute per person. Okay. You've left. Okay.
You have to put 1 minute on my answers. I'm the one who talks a lot, Sue.
Okay, I'm not talking to you, just to be clear. Dale Hartnett.
Hello?
We can hear you now.
Yeah, my name is Joe Hartnett, actually.
Oh,
Dale's
sorry.
my wife. This is a quick question having to do with we're participating in the Boyle lawsuit against the DWP. And so my question is, I saw a couple of guys near our lot on Alcima from DWP, and they said, oh, you're not going to get underground for 10 years. But I'm wondering if under the pressure of the legal liabilities that they're suffering from, there might be some way to negotiate a quicker turnaround on what would be an enormously valuable investment for everyone.
Yeah. So, Joe, thank you for the question. I think, so you are not the first person to mention that you've heard from workers on the ground that it would take 10 years to get it done. I've had other people tell me they've heard from workers on the ground that it was not happening at all. And so just to clarify, DWP has committed to doing the underground. They have already begun trenching in many neighborhoods. They have already begun a lot of the work around that. One of the big issues, in my view, is going to be convincing comms to come underground as well. And so there's ongoing work about coordinating those efforts. We recently had DWP come and do a town hall for the Palisades to talk about their plans for undergrounding as well as other infrastructure upgrades. Joe, if you email my office or if you drop us a note in the chat, we can get you the link to that where they explain in more detail. There are some places that just because of the challenging terrain, the undergrounding may not be feasible. We are also going to probably have to work through some complicated new questions about where and how the infrastructure even related to the underground may need to be placed, issues related to easements and rights of entry. But I think that with the overwhelming desire to get this done, I don't think those issues will ultimately be a problem that prevents us from doing it. And I don't think that it is necessarily going to be a 10-year project, although it will be an ongoing multi-year project. We are going to bring DWP back for another town hall. This one is going to be focused more for the builders. We are getting a lot of questions about the tech and connections and timing and things like that. And so that will be another great opportunity to come and get your questions answered. And we will actually have DWP again on hand who can go over some of the more specific details with you then.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Justin?
Yeah, hi. Okay, so I just had a question. When are we going to get an itemized cost estimate from LADWP for the undergrounding? And that's it.
Yeah, I don't know when I don't know when they're going to have an itemized costing for it. I don't know that they're even that far along in it. They're going to be at the town hall. When, Ruth, can you chime in and let us know what date that is? I know you told me earlier.
Yes, absolutely. The preliminary date has been set for August 27th. It will be on the same time, 5 through 6:30. We will be sending out that information to all the Palisades organizations. And please, like the councilwoman mentioned, follow us in social media, Instagram, Facebook, and sign up to receive our newsletter. I am posting the link over here in this chat so you can sign up to receive the newsletter. You will receive information and the link to join the meeting.
So Justin, that will be an opportunity to ask them if they have an itemized cost sheet at this point prepared. I'd be surprised if they do. I'm not sure if they even know yet.
Okay,
Thank you.
yeah, great. I would just like to know, there's already a lot of people building, like, how do we make everyone underground ready, save a lot of people money?
Yeah, and that's it. This is frustrating. And a lot of things are happening at once. And so that's part of the reason that we want to make them available. And we know a lot of builders and folks have questions so that we're doing this right. So we're going to, I know that's still 3 weeks down the pipeline, but we're going to get them to you. And in the meantime, if you have a specific question, email us in the office and we'll try to get you connected to someone at DWP that can give you a useful answer.
And by the way, if I'm not mistaken, I think Justin can be a big help in this entire process for the undergrounding. So you might.
Great. Well, Justin, maybe just email me anyway, and we'll go grab coffee and you can tell me what it is you want me to know.
Let's do it. Okay.
All right. You got it.
Okay. Christopher Gregg.
Beep. Beep.
Okay. Lauren.
Hi, thank you so much. So I'm in the alphabets, and one of the major problems during all of this has been that, aside from everything else, I was in the middle of a block on Iliff, and my house was the first to go down. And it was because there was a transformer in the backyard of my house. And literally, there are so many ring cams and everything else showing my house going down first. I can pretty much guarantee you it's because their transformer was in the back of my house. What are we doing about this? You can say like, oh, well, we don't know, but we have to fight for this at some point. And also, yes, there were no fire trucks anywhere in our area. But if there were fire trucks or anything else, they wouldn't be able to get into our streets anyway. So why, the alphabets got hit arguably the hardest in term, not that anyone was hit easy, but we don't have the width of the street. We don't have, what is being done for the hundreds of people that are going back in the same situation? This is a real big situation. And we don't have a geographical issue. We're a flat area. The streets need to be widened. There needs to be street lights, and there needs to be, everything has to go underground immediately. Full stop. What is happening?
Lauren, you do not have to convince me, and the alphabets are, in my view, an appropriate location where I don't think there is a reason that DWP is going to have an issue with it. I don't know
But
what to say.
they're putting permanent millions and millions of dollars of permanent above ground poles right now in the alphabets.
So
you think
Lauren, what they're doing right now is they are, the poles could be permanent if they were going to be left, but they have to replace what was there before. It's temporary. The plan is to do undergrounding in the alphabets. So they have to replace the poles that were there for long-term while they work on the plan to do the underground so that it's safe for you.
Right. So I'm one of the few people rebuilding. My house is actually in progress right now. And to be honest, that's not true, because we need temporary lines that are for rebuilding. I was in permitting. We don't need a full structure up for the lack of permitting that's actually going on in the alphabets. We could all have temporary poles up. We don't need a full rebuild of what was. It's a disaster. And a disaster in terms of, we're just asking for another problem. We also cannot fit a fire truck down our streets if we tried.
Lauren,
So-
hold this thought on this width of the streets, because I want to get to that in a minute. Is your rebuild now, how are you getting your power?
We have a temporary pole,
Okay.
but they're currently rebuilding the same structure. They're not going to rebuild the same permanent structure without actually. So we had to file for a permit for a temporary pole. We have a temporary pole in our backyard. However, they are currently putting permanent poles.
Okay,
in
let's,
alphabets.
Lauren, why
That's a
don't we
big
do
problem.
this?
Yeah, let's
Lauren-
take this maybe.
Yeah,
offline
so
sometime.
Lauren, happy to chat with you a little bit further about it. And I assume, and maybe I shouldn't, but first of all, if you ever have run into any issues with DWP or information that's being communicated and you want to check on it, feel free to reach out to me and my team. If you haven't already, I would highly recommend plan to come to the next DWP town hall. I don't want to try to answer questions on their behalf. I'm not a technical expert on it. And so I would prefer to let them be the ones to answer it. But that's going to be a great opportunity for people to get more specific information about timing, connectors, the new infrastructure,
beyond-
and what the builders need to know.
And I hear that.
Lauren, hang on real quick, because I want to answer the second part of your question about the road widths. Like I mentioned before, the alphabet streets particularly challenging. You deal with the overflow from Sunset and the Village, parking impacted on a good day, and very, very narrow streets. And even with designated parking only on one side, you could barely get a sanitation truck or a fire truck down the streets in the old days. So as we are working on the rebuilding, I think this is an appropriate time to have a conversation, whether that's about parking configurations or making one ways, or whether it is about potentially widening the street. Is that a foot on each side, more or less? Those are the conversations.
We have to get rid of, and immediately, one of the green areas on one side or both, or take it out of both sides. It doesn't matter. But also, every day this goes by that's not happening is another day of danger, because we also haven't cleared any of the brush anywhere. I mean, we are in danger every single day for what is left of what we have. So I was born and raised in Palisades. I'm raising my children there. My kids' school, Corpus Christi, went down. Our house in Alphabets went down. Like, this is really horrible to watch, that nothing has changed. Nothing has been solved. And also, there are no concrete answers to what we're doing moving forward. Even
Well, I think, Lauren, I hear your frustration, and I think that's what we're trying to help you solve. And that's why we have brought on the expertise of Aecom to help us do those assessments and make those modifications.
Yeah,
because
Lauren,
as
I
have
have a really big
mentioned-
problem. You
I have
guys,
a really big
Lauren,
problem
I have
with
to put an end to this because we have a couple other people, so let's take it offline. Okay, sorry. Brooke. Sorry.
Okay.
Thank you.
Lovely.
I appreciate it. I'll make it very quick.
Thank you.
For those of us who have lost our homes and we are considering whether to rebuild, and we stay within our footprint, can we be guaranteed that our property taxes will not be raised to a higher level after we complete our rebuild? I mean, we are going to be making a gigantic gamble in reinvesting in the Palisades. And I think the city should share some of that risk by assuring us that we are not going to, between our insurance rates and property taxes, that we're going to be priced out of trying to live there if we rebuild.
Yeah, no, I hear you. And while I can't predict, how the markets may affect property values over time, they are going to go up. And part of the reason I like a localized incremental tax financing district for you is so that right now, now they've been reassessed to your lot value. They're lower now. When you rebuild and your home is there, your lot value is going to go back up. But that incremental, and as lots trade hands in the future, after you rebuild, those incremental increases, in my opinion, should be captured for your community, not put into the general suck of the rest of the misspending that we do as a county and as a city. And so part of the reason I like that climate resilience district structure is because it's localized for you. Whether we do that or whether we choose some other governance model, a different type of TIF or a different special district, or if we do what Senator Allen has suggested with a rebuilding authority, it should be crafted in a way that gives it the ability to do the things that you need and want as a community. And those are conversations that you and I and Senator Allen and Supervisor Horvath will have in coming weeks. But the ability to issue bonds or to manage that tax increment financing is one of the powers that could be delegated to a regional authority. And so I hear your frustration about that. You guys pay some of the highest taxes anywhere in Los Angeles, and look at the level of service we got out of it on January 7th. So I hear and feel your frustration. I share it, and I am keen on looking for ways to keep your tax dollars working for you locally.
Thank you very much. Dave, can we be brief? Dave Card.
Sorry, my wife just interrupted me. The point I wanted to make was I heard a lot about infrastructure, but I didn't hear about the living infrastructure of the Palisades, our urban forests, the street trees, the park trees. Most of the trees of the urban forests are in people's yards, and many of them are still standing. What I'd like to see is a firm commitment from the city to water the street trees that haven't had any water since the rains ended months and months ago. So if we could get that commitment from the city to water the street trees in the Palisades, that would be great, because I think we need the living trees to give us the oxygen, to suck in the toxins and the carbon. And we need it for people to feel a little bit of hope and renewal. When the trees blossomed out with new leaves after the fire, I think that was a hopeful sign, and we need to keep that going. I know that the Urban Forestry Division of Streets LA did an assessment back a few months ago of the street trees, but they're doing another one now. But it seems like all they're doing is assessing and not doing anything to protect and help survive the existing urban forest on our streets. Thanks.
David, thank you for the note on the watering of the street trees, and thank you for all of your hard work and leadership on this. It was great running into you yesterday, I guess it was.
And that was fun talking to the senator who's a tree lover. And that was a fun conversation. And thank you for all you do for us here. We really appreciate you.
Sure. You're welcome, Dave. So I do address restoration of our urban canopy as well as the vegetation in your parks. And so that's addressed in the longer document. I'll let you dive into it a little bit more in detail there. But, our trees, our vegetation, that living infrastructure, as I mentioned, is just as important, in many ways, as the buildings themselves. And so this is something that, we're already, looking at Potrero Canyon and what needs to be done to get that restored. Watering the city streets, I am more than happy to take up with urban forestry. I want us to be able to save as many of your remaining trees as we can. And I'm looking forward to working with your organization and others to begin the process of replacing the trees that we lost, because that is as much a part of the community character as everything else is in the Palisades.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Robert Reef.
Hi. First of all, I just want to echo what was said earlier. Tracy, thank you very, very much for all you're doing. You're always in the trenches fighting for us, and we all are very, very appreciative. A couple of questions. First of all, my wife and I anticipate or are hoping to be built and back in by next summer, maybe around July is what we're projecting. But one of our big concerns is safety, because we also know from our immediate area that we'll probably be, we're on a little street, Palmera and Northfield area near Bienvenida. We know we're going to be one of the first houses probably on our block, and we're pretty worried about being there, especially at night, alone, worried about the police presence or lack of, what might be lack of police presence. It's obviously a large area. That's question number one. Number two, it's a DWP spinoff. Our street's extremely narrow. I mean, a garbage truck most of the time can't even get fully down the street without honking their horn to have somebody move a parked car. That's how narrow that street is. So they're talking about putting these generator boxes every 8 houses. Our side of the street, a lot of the houses are already right up to the sidewalk or very close to the sidewalk. So like putting one of these big green boxes on an extremely narrow front yard isn't great. Is there a way to find out where these generators are going, and is there a way to object if it's going to go on our property? And those are my first pressing questions.
Okay, great question. So police presence, we are very fortunate that LAPD continues to maintain a dedicated heavy presence in the Palisades. Chief McDonnell, as well as West Bureau Deputy Chief Woodyard, has been extremely generous in allowing that dedicated presence to remain. We now have the drop-in station. Thank you very much to Miriam Czar and the Recovery Coalition for helping us access that space. Even with, the 10 dedicated cars, it still doesn't feel like enough in a lot of ways. There is also the supplement with private security. LAPD is not likely going to continue carrying that forward, but many neighborhoods and HOAs and others on the ground have already worked to add private security supplements. We are going to keep a very, very close eye on crime in and around the Palisades. I was personally horrified to see the numbers and stats coming out of Altadena, and I do not, obviously, I don't want that to happen for you, which is why I fought as hard as I did to keep you guys closed down for as long as we were able to do that. I'm not going to let up on the issue of safety and security. Yeah, your narrow streets in the Palisades, look, you guys have some small substandard roads. You built your houses in some really creative places. And these are issues that we are going to need to be mindful of and make some modifications to potentially, and some adaptations around. I don't know the exact answer to the generator boxes for your particular street, but I do get the sense from DWP that they are willing to work with us, to work with you guys, to try to figure out creative and innovative solutions. So there may be some layouts or alternate designs for a street or a location like yours that could work. I don't know. Well, let's ask DWP on August 27th. And in the meantime,
Right.
if you have questions or concerns, email us and, we can kind of come out and take a look and see if we can get somebody from DWP to,
Well,
help
I
us
know
put
those
some
little
eyeballs on it.
towers, those little round towers are much smaller. And I don't know why or when they use the tower versus the big box, but certainly on a street with almost no front yards, that would be beneficial.
Yeah, well, and that might be
Thank
the
you.
solution or some other type of an option for you. So we'll look at it, Robert.
Okay,
you.
Molly, quickly, please. We only have time for a couple more. John, you're on mute.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, thanks. Tracy, you are so appreciated. Thank you. Your staff is phenomenal. Question from my family members who have temporarily relocated because there are no more houses. They've been notified by the city that they are in a new voting district, and that because they're paying utilities and electric, etc., they cannot vote in the next election unless they're in the area, the Palisades, for CD11. And what's the answer? What's going on? Tell
John,
us so we can spread the word, because
Yeah,
we want you reelected.
Well, let me preface my answer by saying this: whether you vote for me or some other guy, you deserve to vote. As a Palisadian, you deserve to have a say in what happens next in your neighborhood and in your city. So this has been really frustrating. You know, as people were displaced, people who left a forwarding address with the mail, with the post office, that would have triggered the county registrar to send a notice asking you to update your voter registration. You do not have to do that. If you go to the DMV website and try to update your driver's license to reflect your temporary address while you're displaced, it will automatically ask you, do you want to update your voter address? A lot of people don't think about it. They just click yes. I want all my mail coming to my current address. If you're living in Manhattan Beach and you update your voter registration address to Manhattan Beach, you'll get a ballot for Manhattan Beach. But if you are displaced because of a natural disaster, you are entitled to retain your prior home address in the Palisades for purposes of voting.
Great, thanks. We'll spread the word.
Yes, you can go to voterstatus.sos.ca.gov. And from that website, you can check to see what the state has as your current registration, and you can change it back to your Palisades address. So it would be great if folks could get the word out. We've pushed out some messaging on it, but I think it is really important for people to know they continue to have the right to vote as a Palisadian in Council District 11 in the city of Los Angeles, even if they are temporarily living in a different council district in the city of LA, or in a different city in the county of Los Angeles, or somewhere else in the state or the country for that matter.
Thank you, Tracy.
We need to push that out a little
You too.
harder. So thank you, John. Okay, Sharon and Jennifer, I don't know which one of you it is.
Hi, this is Jennifer. I was wondering if we can get any kind of timeline for when the streets are getting repaired. They are torn up. My street is alligatoring in 3 spots, and soon it's not going to be able to support any traffic coming up our streets. I realize that there's a budget that I guess we're waiting for approval. But in the meantime, I cannot drive up my own street without fear of damaging or ruining my car. And it's really dangerous. And I've spoken to Arus, and I just want to find out how long we have to wait. Yes, it might have to get redone again, but in the meantime, especially with Marquez repopulating soon, it needs to be safe for us to drive onto. Thank you.
Thank you for the note and the comment. Yeah, your roads are a mess in the Palisades. They are really bad. Obviously, the fire itself and all of the trucks and the debris removal and the scraping of lots, all of that has been extraordinarily hard on your roads. There are many, many, many of them that are going to have to be redone. Some of that is likely going to be reimbursable through FEMA. Some of that is going to, just have to be part of what our normal city operations are. I don't know where, I know you're already in touch with Arus about it. But I don't know the answer to where yours is in the pipeline. So feel free to reach out to me and Arus again. What we have been telling folks is if there's a particular issue, you can always use 311 to report it. You feel free to copy us on that too. I think that you're right, Aecom, as we are reopening schools and looking at commute patterns, we need some help identifying where the priorities are going to be, because frankly, there are so many of your roads and some of them may need to be done a couple of times. Temesco Canyon, just wait until you see it. You're going to have one brand new, nice, super smooth road in the Palisades. So
Just
I hear your
as a
frustration.
side note, Tracy, is that I did contact 311, so it's beyond
Okay,
311.
that's good. So that helps. I know it's in the queue, then we can get an update on it, and we can certainly help work with Aecom to make sure that roads that are actually dangerous, not just inconvenient and annoying, are being prioritized for services. I don't know what the timeline is going to be to have streets or DOT out there to work on it, but I'll find out.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to take
It's going to
one-
be ongoing over years. Just everybody, just so you all know that if there's a particularly dangerous area, we can get to it. But your street resurfacing is going to take us years.
Yeah, without 4-wheel drive, it's kind of hard to get through.
Yeah,
Anyway,
your roads are a mess. They
Yeah.
are a mess
Yeah.
right now.
Okay, Christopher Gregg, you've had your hand up for a long time. Are you with us?
Hi, thank you so much. I apologize earlier. I was actually on a bike ride in the Palisades and the service was out. I apologize. I would like to just put out there that we are in the process of rebuilding. We just began demolition only to find out that our water meter was disassembled with no notice to us whatsoever. And we are now 6 weeks into just a complete and total fiasco with DWP on trying to get water restored to the property. Every time we call, we get a different person, we get a different answer. It's been quite a nightmare, and we've even tried stopping by the Topanga substation. We email, there is no, nobody seems to be talking to each other at DWP. Every time we call, we get a different answer. And we've lost 6 weeks.
Okay, Christopher. So first of all, this is just note to self, Traci Park. Don't ever do another Palisades town hall and not have DWP here to answer questions. I will file that away for my own personal reference. Have you already reached out to our team about your address?
I have not. I've just been focusing with calling DWP every single day or emailing or stopping by Topanga.
Email me and Arus. Let us see if we
Okay.
can meddle and see if we can
I
get you
appreciate
some
that.
better customer service.
Yeah, could I just recommend maybe advocating for, a direct line to the Topanga substation that people in the fire zone specifically can contact, because every time we call, we get a different team and the process starts all over again. And setting up some kind of a direct line with someone who is specifically responsible for the burn zone in the Palisades only. It'd be great for Altadena as well, but for the Palisades specific, they need a direct team. They're going to be dealing with 4,000 homes and multiple businesses here, and this is how this went just for a water meter.
An entire dedicated team over there at the UROC.
To be a nightmare.
Super annoying, Christopher. Email us. Let us see if we can meddle and get you some better customer service. That's not cool.
And Councilwoman, I added the DWP link for the
will do.
Palisades customer service specific to it. And as always, Arus and I and our team can always follow up on specific cases if you're not getting a good response from DWP. But I just chatted it. I added the link.
Thank you.
That was Juan
we appreciate that.
Fregoso, our trusty district director. Under Juan's leadership, that is how all of the magic on the ground actually happens. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Juan.
Okay, we're going to end with Donna. Donna, please make it as brief as possible, and we just can't take any more. So if anyone else has questions, please put them right now into the chat, because we're going to get a copy of the chat out to everyone who needs it.
And if anybody didn't get an answer to their question in the chat or raising their hand tonight, just email me and the team. We're around, we're super responsive. We've got all kinds of community meetings coming up with you guys over the next months while we slog through these details. So just know that if you didn't get your question answered tonight, there's going to be lots and lots of opportunities. We're not going anywhere.
Okay.
Great, I'll be brief. Wonderful presentation, thank you. I'm president of the Pacific Palisades Historical Society and very concerned about the historic integrity of the core of the Palisades within the business district, and specifically the business block building, which now that the site is cleared, you can see really the delicate architectural elements which are left. There is a rumor on the street that they're filing for a demolition permit for the rest of the structure. And we hope that CD11 can support a independent historic resource analysis on the building, because these elements can be saved and incorporated into what would be a new design. But if it's lost forever. Thank you.
Donna, thank you. It's a great point. And thank you for being so dedicated to make sure that the history of the Palisades is preserved. And I know that we lost a lot, but there are still some historic elements, and finding some creative ways to continue incorporating those seems like a good idea to me. So let's keep that conversation going. I know there is widespread interest in trying to do that. And when I talk about preserving the character of the Palisades, those are the kinds of specific things that I would like for us to be able to do as a community as well. So thanks for that, Donna.
Okay, with that, we're going to wind up. Let me just say one more time to Matt and Mark, thank you so much. You guys, I don't know if you really had any idea what you're getting yourselves into here. You've joined Traci now in the 24/7 club. So thank you very much for coming to our meeting. And Councilwoman Park, thank you for suggesting this meeting and putting it all together and providing more information than most of us can even process. You're amazing. You're amazing. So thank you all. And thanks to everybody for coming. So with that, I'll say good night.
Thank you.
Have a great night.
Thanks, everyone.
Good night, Palisades.
Thank
Good
you
night,
so
Aecom.
much.
Good night,
Thank you.
Executive Board.
Bye.
We'll see
And
you
thanks-
all soon.
Thanks to you too, Ruth.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Bye.
Have a great night.
Bye.
Good night, Sue, for putting it all on your
Oh,
fabulous.
thanks.
Thank
Okay,
you,
bye.
Sue.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you, too. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
See you.